Hello, this is Angela with Parkrose Permaculture. Welcome back to my Hausfrau Friday segment. It is a very warm and very sunny day here in Portland, Oregon, so I'm hiding under my filbert tree here to make this video. Hausfrau Friday is a segment where I talk about ecological homemaking, where we look at our domestic interest and skills through the lens of earth care, people care, and fair share. Everyone has a home, therefore everybody has domestic obligations. Homemaking is a special profession. It involves a unique and diverse set of skills, but that doesn't mean that the topics that we address in these videos are not applicable to anybody interested in sustainable living, because they absolutely are. So today I want to talk about this phrase, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. There is an exhaustive amount of material on the internet that dives into what that phrase means. But I want to take a tiny bit of a different bent today. I was having a conversation with my 17-year-old about this phrase and how she is seeing that phrase misused and manipulated in her social media spheres, places like TikTok or Tumblr, I guess, the things that the youth use for social media. And that combined with the fact that I made a mistake this week with some of my purchases that did not align with my values, and I didn't discover it until afterward, I felt like this is an important topic. So when folks say no ethical consumption under capitalism, what they mean is that we can try as best as we can to practice ecological homemaking. Homemakers are responsible for everything in the domestic sphere. We are the kings and queens of the home. We get to make those command decisions, and that means we hold the purse strings. It means we are in charge of not only budgeting, but also acquiring resources that we need for the home. And that means that it is up to us to guide our household in the choices that we make in terms of our purchases, in making sure those purchases are aligned with earth care, people care, and fair share, making sure that we are consciously, as much as we possibly can, choosing to make purchases that do not exploit workers and do not exploit the environment, and that reduce harm whenever possible. No ethical consumption under capitalism means when we live in a society where profit is the end all and be all, where paying dividends to shareholders is the end all and be all, we cannot possibly function perfectly in alignment with our values to care for people and care for the earth. When the entire system is set up to exploit people and exploit the planet so that it may serve profit, it means that we are kind of working with a deck that is stacked against us if we want to make responsible purchases. And so that means what we are often doing is we are looking for harm reduction. I talked in a video about the kinds of overzealous extremism that can bleed its way into sustainable living and ecologically conscious movements, and how we want to avoid that. And this is sort of part of that. We have to do the best that we can within a really flawed system that is not set up for sustainability, that is not set up to care for people on the earth. So we can try to follow our ethics as best we can. We can try to make those conscious purchases, but we may find on the back end, we've done our research, okay, I'm gonna make sure that I purchase from this company where I know that the laborers are paid a fair and living wage. And then I get the product home and I find out, like, oh no, the cotton milled, harvested and milled to make this, garment that I've purchased. Oh, they use really unsustainable practices and all kinds of like terrible, pesticides and fungicides. And the dyes are those, modern dyes that are really polluting for the environment. And shoot, I thought I was doing right because I chose to go with a company that pays a fair wage. That's what no ethical consumption under capitalism means. It means that we are doing our best. We cannot make every purchase in perfect alignment with our ethics. But what my 17-year-old is seeing, and what I have seen in some of the like cottagecore farm posting groups and cottagecore groups, like if you haven't noticed, I have a little bit of pastoral idealism that I enjoy. I'm a big fan of Tasha Tudor ever since I was a little kid. I love that kind of like long skirts and doing your own sewing and your own cooking, and all of that kind of lends itself, gardening obviously, lends itself to the cottagecore aesthetic. But what I've seen is in these groups, the cottagecore aesthetic being co-opted by capitalism, but in a way that doesn't say like, okay, I'm striving to do the best I can. I'm going to extend grace and forgiveness to myself because I know that I cannot we purchase anything. And I'm going to extend grace and forgiveness to other consumers because I know that they in turn are not going to make perfect choices. So I am not going to judge or look down my nose at folks who make purchases that are not perfectly caring for the earth and caring for people. What I've seen in these groups is a kind of nihilism. And this is what my 17-year-old B was saying as well. She sees kind of a nihilism in her TikTok sphere where it's like, well, there's no ethical consumption. So that just means like, I can't make any purchase that's perfect. So I'm just not going to bother. I'm not going to expend the effort. I'm going to search to satisfy my own wants and desires and my own interests, my own shopping preferences. I want what I want when I want it. And because that there is a system that makes it impossible to purchase objects that are 100% ethical, I'm just going to give up and I'm just going to buy whatever I want. So I'm going to buy those those foods that are produced in a really unsustainable way, even though if I did a tiny bit of due diligence, I might make different choices. But like, you know what? There's no ethical consumption. So I just don't care. I'm going to buy whatever I want. The same thing, like, well, I really want this frilly prairie dress, but the company that I'm buying it from is basically a sweatshop, and they've also stolen the designs from a small woman designer in Europe. And so I'm exploiting a small woman entrepreneur and artist. And I am also exploiting the 14-year-old girls that are sewing these dresses. And I know that the material I'm buying is probably poor quality and will rapidly end up in the landfill, but it doesn't matter because I want to wear a prairie dress right now. So that's the kind of nihilism I'm pushing back against, and that my 17-year-old is expressing this kind of endless frustration with lately in her social media as well. And so how do we balance that? So if we are going to be sustainable homemakers, if we're striving to be ecological in the way that we run a home and we purchase clothing for ourselves, for our families, we purchase goods for our household that we need, how do we avoid that kind of nihilism that says like, gosh, the system is so hard to navigate and it takes so much energy to navigate, I'm just going to give up? So number one, I would say, please look down in the description below. I'm going to link to several websites that are great places where you can look up the labor practices and the environmental impact of clothing manufacturers. And that means right off the bat, like you can just Google something. And this is where I want to get to where I failed earlier this week. So first of all, check out the description, read those websites. And if you're thinking about making a purchase, check in with them and see like, what is the rating that these companies get for their labor and their environmental impact? I neglected to do that when I ordered some tank tops this week. So I pretty much only purchase my clothes from the thrift store, or I make them myself out of thrifted fabric, or a garment that I bought at the thrift store and I cut up and remake. So the skirt that I'm wearing, I made this skirt 20 years ago from a piece of thrifted fabric. I think it was a tablecloth originally, and I made a circle skirt out of it. The petticoat that I'm wearing is a bed sheet that I actually picked up in a recent video on the gift economy. You can see where I got this on Buy Nothing. It was a bed sheet someone was getting rid of, and I turned it into 2 circle skirts, one for me and one for my daughter, or petticoats, I should say. And this shirt I got at the thrift store. So I hardly ever buy anything new. I either make it or I buy it thrifted. And that takes life hours. It takes time in order to save money and to repurpose a garment, to reuse a garment, and make sure that no resources are consumed in my clothing purchases. So I often wear tank tops under my clothes. They're almost all thrifted. I noticed the last time I went to the thrift store, tank tops have doubled in price at the thrift store. All of my tank tops are at least 10 years old, if not 15 or 18 years old. So many of them are wearing out. And I thought, well, for that price at the thrift store, I will invest in new ones that are on clearance from a local store that I know really supports women in agriculture. And I think this is a great choice. I'm trying really hard to purchase ethically. Okay, I'm going to buy new in the hope that this will last a lot longer. I'm going to buy it when it's on clearance, so I'm being responsible with my resources. And I am going to support a company that supports women in agriculture and a diverse a set of women with diverse bodies, diverse ethnicities in their advertising. And I think that's really good. I'm making the best choice that I can. So I had a great sale. I purchased online. I purchased 4 tank tops, and I'm not going to show you the name of the company. They arrived today. So I thought, well, these are some staple parts of my wardrobe. purple, blue, gray, white. I'll wear them under lots of stuff. They'll last me for another 15 or 18 years. They're cotton. They'll go in the compost when I'm done, right? They came in plastic bags. Why is everything individually wrapped in plastic bags? And then when they got here today, my 17-year-old was in the middle of venting about this sort of like nihilism that she's seeing in regards to we can't make perfectly ethical choices. And I was like, well, look at these tank tops I just bought. They are from a company that really advocates and supports and like normalizes women in agriculture. And I'm really frustrated that I thought I was making an ethical choice, and here's all this plastic packaging in the order. And then I took a second and I looked up the practices of the company, and they are really cagey about where their employees, who their seamstresses are located, their garment workers, and how much they pay them and what their working conditions are like. And then they're also really like pretty lacking in disclosure about where they source their cotton and how it is grown and harvested in the dyeing process as well. So that didn't feel great to me. I felt a little bit of a hypocrite, but I want to extend grace and forgiveness to myself because there is no ethical consumption under capitalism. I thought I was doing a good thing. I had good intentions. I am one individual navigating a really complex system that is set up for profit for corporations and CEOs, profit for shareholders. It is not set up to support ethics. It is not set up to support earth care and people care. So I have to make my choices while existing in this system. And so I can try really hard to be ethical, and I cannot get a home run every time, and that is okay. I can check some of the boxes toward like I'm doing the best I can to do right by other people in the planet and not get it perfect every time. So I want to encourage you, if you're a homemaker, that the ecological way to homemake, the right way to approach the choices that you make in terms of purchases for your home, in terms of the tone that you set for your home, is not to say this is really hard. It's really hard to live sustainably in a capitalist system that doesn't care about the same values I care about. And so I'm just going to give up. Like, life is really hard. It's really taxing. There's so much energy I'm expending. Oh, hi, little bee. Hello. So it can be really taxing. It can feel like, well, I just really want to indulge. I want to treat myself. I want to feel good. And that's okay. Like, you deserve good things. You deserve to afford pretty things. You deserve to have lovely things in your life, things that make your life less difficult. And oftentimes the more sustainable choice can be the choice that is not frugal and not within our budget. So when we're looking at that, the option of like, do I do the best I can? And I make choices knowing that I'm not going to get it 100% right every time, because companies don't have a desire to get it right even 5% of the time. That is the best you can do. And you have to focus on harm reduction and saying, I'm doing the best I can in this system, and that is enough. I'm going to model for my household that it's important to give our energy and our time toward making conscious choices with our consumption. That when we make purchases, we do so in a way that, as best we can, supports our values, but that we don't beat ourselves up, and we don't let other people call us hypocrites, and we don't let other people look down their nose at us if we don't get it perfectly. There's no gotcha here. There's no gotcha when you are doing the best that you can. Don't let anybody look down their nose at you. Don't let anybody try to condemn you or make your desire to be responsible in your purchases feel hypocritical or conflicted. Don't let anybody come up to you and say like, I see that you say that you're about sustainable living and a local food economy, but I see that you bought those factory farm chicken thighs that are wrapped in plastic and shipped on a diesel-powered truck here. Because you know that you have to feed your family, and you know that you have a budget that you have to stick to, and you know that you have to make compromises because the system is not willing to embrace the same ethics that you have at the moment. We should work to reform the system. We should vote for elected officials that are going to enact policy change. Absolutely. And we should vote with our dollars as well. But we can't get it perfect. I didn't get it perfect with my tank top purchase. the one time in many, many years that I've bothered to go out and like buy myself brand new clothes and I thought like I'm doing an okay job, I didn't get it perfectly. I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm going to pick myself up. I'm going to say, hey, I'm doing the best that I can. I know that you are doing the best that you can. So we need to be supporting each other in making the best possible choices that we can. We need to try to form those community bonds, form those household bonds, so that we have the energy to dive into what are the practices of the companies that we purchase from, so that we have the delayed gratification. I have a video on that as well. We have the delayed gratification to say, actually, I'm gonna do without for a little bit while I research this more fully. I'm not sure if my purchase is in alignment with my values, and so I'm gonna press pause on it until I have the energy to dig deep into what this company does. And then I'll get back to it. We should be encouragers of each other, encouragers of choosing a more sustainable life, knowing that as homemakers, we are responsible for the purchases of our household, and therefore we are responsible for the ethics of our household, but also knowing that we cannot do it 100% right, and that is okay. So that's where I'm at today. I am gonna go pick up my kid from work. I hope that you all are not feeling too exhausted. It's really tough. It's really tough to want to care for people in the planet and do it while functioning in a system that wants to exploit both workers and this beautiful planet that we all share. So I hope that you're finding time to rest and recharge your batteries. You're finding time to take care of yourself so that you can have the energy to try to take care of others and the planet as best you can. So I'll be back tomorrow. I have a video all ready to go. Please check out some of those links down in the description for places that you can kind of check your particularly clothing, garment purchases to see if they are taking care to have ethical business practices as best that they can. So please take the time to take care of yourself, to rest and recharge so that you have the energy to engage with your values, to engage with your community and your household, and bring your values along with you in those conversations, in those interactions. I'll be back tomorrow for my permaculture garden. It's June and there's so much happening. So I have a lot of stuff coming out over the next week or two. Take care of yourself and I'll be back. Bye.